Yeah. Tom Deedigan interviewing Kid One.
Thank you very much for the board themselves, who's comfortable. Action.
Can you introduce yourself?
Yes. My name's Tom Deedigan. I live in Alnwick, come here in 1973 with my father who was in the Royal Air Force, and I've been here ever since, married a local girl and have been here ever since.
What is the Alnwick Fair?
The Alnwick Fair was something that when I first came here I thought was really different and really good. It had been running I think since '69, something like that, and for somebody who'd never seen one before I thought it was really good. Excellent. I mean, it was the whole town seemed to take part in it, from young, old, and everybody, and it was the whole town pulled together, and it was really a good, for businesses of Alnwick as well. It wasn't just for the locals to enjoy, but it was really attracted a lot of people to the town, which I think a lot of locals resented at times because you couldn't get moved, you couldn't get parked, but then that's the price you have to pay to get business into your town. So it was interesting. Well, it put it on the map. It brought visitors down, like I say, it made sure that shops got filled and cafes and different things, and a lot of people put a lot of hard work into it, but it certainly put Alnwick on the map.
What are your best memories of the Alnwick Fair?
Best memories. I once won the World Champion Sniffy Snakes competition in the Tanners. Now, you've probably never heard of that, but you sit there with a silly pair of glasses on, with a snake on the end, and you have to push it. I don't know if there was a world championship, but I told everybody I was a world champion. And you did different games that you would never done. I mean, I didn't actually do this, but there was a thing called Dwyfunking. I don't know if I've said that right, but it's very close. And they used to go around a stick after having a drink, and they'd get dizzy and had to do things. It was actually quite ridiculous to watch people who had been, if you just went round normally, you'd get dizzy. Well, imagine having a few drinks and going round and all that. So it was different games, things you hadn't seen before. The actual thing that amazed me was the fact that there were dunking witches, or supposed to be witches. I thought, God, that's a bit strange. And the water was absolutely freezing cold. Not that I ever got dunked, but I did actually feel it. Thought, those poor women. So it was different, and there was always something for everybody.
Why is it no longer a thing?
Well, I think my personal view is, and I wasn't involved with any involvement in the fair itself. I once took part in the parade as the mayor when I was mayor. Me and my family, my son and daughter still didn't have counselling for it yet, but I think one was about 11, the other would be about 14, 13, 14. So you can imagine being asked to wear a 18th century costume to wander around in front of your friend. Do you think any of you would do it? I don't think so. But anyhow, they had to do it, and so I remember that. But the thing I thought it was too repetitive. It didn't change enough. While you've got a good formula, you need to change things. You need to have a different reason to attract people to the town. I also thought it went on too long at the finish. A week was too long. I think a weekend, 4 days would have been better. That's just my opinion.
Since COVID and us not being allowed to be together, why are festivals and community gatherings important?
Well, I think they're important regardless. Before COVID, they were important. I think anything that pulls the town together, because as I was saying there before we started, that there was an awful lot of people who were involved at the beginning who were there right at the end as well. And they spent a lot of time devoted to, whether it be the fair, music festival or something else. You're lucky to have people like that in your town. And I think it makes it a place worth living for anybody that wants to bring their families here, to actually work and raise their families here.
What other great community gatherings are there now?
Great community gatherings, that's a good one. I mean, the music festival still goes. That's quite good. And I know, I'm hoping, I've been told, they're hoping that the spring show will go back on. We've actually also lost, which didn't get much in my time, didn't get much publicity, was the county show. The county show used to be held in Alnwick as well. So that was another big event that, if you like, got taken away to, I think, Corbridge or somewhere now. But the fair, I think, was just that they didn't attract new, younger members, and I think that's the biggest problem for any town now, is getting young people to get involved with community things.
Tell me about the events and competitions that went on.
Well, there was a strong man. That was a particularly good one because I used to live quite near it where it took place. And then, I don't know if you know where, well, you will do because you live in Alnwick, but where the Tanner's Arms is and the fleece. Well, imagine having to carry a big, heavy bag of coal from the bottom to the top in a race. That was always interesting. I always thought the beauty queen or the queen of the fair was a bit strange because it was obviously voted on by committee members of the actual festival itself, you know, the Alnwick Fair. Well, I thought it would have been better if they'd done a public vote. But never mind, I always believed it was a joke going around Alnwick that the girl that fitted the costume got the job. That's amazing how many times they seem to think that. But that's just local gossip. I don't know, I wasn't involved. But I do think that was quite an interesting thing to have a queen, but not to have a public vote on it or a vote where people could see exactly what was what. I think it got a bit political in the end. I like to say that there was always some sort of darts competition. That any landlords would run competitions, pool, anything like that. And I'm sure around the town they had different competitions in terms of windows and different displays in the window to try and get people involved who weren't involved with the fair.
Any particular characters you remember being involved?
Oh yeah, there's loads. I mean, you always had the town crier, which was what was his name again? I can't remember his name. Stevenson, Mr. Stevenson. He was the town crier. You had Adrian Irons, who was also dressed up like a town crier, would go round. You had a mad monk, Mike James, I think his name is Mike James. And you had the militia men going around grabbing women to throw into the, well, not throw, but put onto the ducking pool. So there was always people, and there was always those who were really in the committee were really nicely dressed. They had 18th century costumes that were really nice. So it was, it was nice to see.
What was your favourite memory or happiest memory of the campaign?
Well, like I said, I did enjoy the parade. I thought it was quite, I still laugh because my kids still don't like it, but I did enjoy the parade. Walking around the town at the head of the parade was very nice for me. I thought it was quite an honour and something I really did enjoy. And you could see all how many people were actually there looking. It was quite, it was a joy to behold, to see the people that were looking at the parade.
What did you miss most about it?
I think, again, it's a community thing. I think when something like that dies, the community loses out. And I think that if you let things die, they're very hard to resurrect again. One of the events we did during the fair, which was actually quite a killer, was the sedan chair race. Now, I don't know if you know what a sedan chair is, but in the olden days, posh people used to get carried around like taxis. There'd be 4 men holding them each corner. Well, you had to do that. You had to make it yourselves. You had to get a lady on it and go over obstacles in a race, so that was quite hard. And the team that won, funny enough, had a 9-year-old girl as the woman on the chair, which we didn't think was right, but it was obviously not against the rules because they won. When we had a fully grown woman, made a massive difference in terms of what weight you were carrying. But I think the sad thing is anything like that dies away, it's just something that, I mean, when people talk about just getting the photographs out to show, Chris was enlightening because my wife straight away said, oh God, look at that, the fair, and she looked at a few others, and it brings back memories. Well, you haven't got those memories because you haven't got a fair.
What is your earliest memory of it?
My earliest memory, like I said, I come here in 73, and I remember being stuck in the bus because we couldn't get through the traffic. And my earliest memory was, what the hell's going on here? Because I didn't know about it. And then was quite surprised when I seen people dressed up. And because I didn't know about it, and because they just sort of came in, if you like, not knowing, I was absolutely flabbergasted how many people were dressed up and how much things were going on.
What costumes did you make for your family and how did you make them?
I didn't make any. I got one given, because I'll tell you what it is, I couldn't make a costume. We were given costumes to wear, which were, you picked out of selection, and I picked one with a top hat. I always remember thinking I quite like that top hat. And this what went with it, and a walking stick. And yeah, it was a laugh.
Do you remember the last one and what do you remember of it?
I do remember the last one. The last one, that it struck me that it had seen its time, the way it was being run. I think it got tired. I think people knew what to expect and there was no surprises. And it didn't surprise me when it was the last one. have no idea. It was in the 90s.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. Well, it might have been, but it was, you know, it was after a while ago, put it that way. But by that time, I think it had run its course the way it was being run.
Would you like it to come back?
Definitely, yes. I think it'd be something that they could get going again. Would be a real boon to the town.
Can you ever see it coming back? And if it did, what would change?
That's, as soon as I say no, I don't see it coming back, I don't need to answer the other one. But if it did come back, I would change the format slightly. I would change the length of time it was on, and I think I would have it less pub orientated. Not saying that the pubs dominated it, but I think you've got to have a lot more for families than what we did have in the past. And I think the costumes maybe would have to, should we say, be more up to date as well as old fashioned. I think you should have because you can imagine somebody in a sort of Spider-Man suit would be quite happy, but they might not want to wear an 18th century pair of bloomers and a dress, but they might want to wear something more modern. So I think if you want everybody involved or more people involved, I think you would have to modernise the costumes. But I think if everybody dressed up in a costume, no matter what age it was, it'd be quite good.
All right, let's cut that. Yeah, and your fringe, get that. Come back a bit closer, 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 closer. Keep going, closer. Brilliant. Go on, Tom.
Like I say, I don't see it coming back for the simple reason I'm in Alnwick Lions, and Alnwick Lions Club has lost a lot of members since COVID. For whatever reasons, COVID made people think about what they do with their lives, where their families are. Now, we're struggling to get people to do things within our own club, and I guess that's the same for other clubs. I know that the music festivals, you know, has got struggles the same as anybody else. I don't see the spring show coming on. I didn't see it coming on this year, which I thought it would. So again, they must be struggling. So the ones that have still got an organisation behind them are struggling to put something on. I think it'd be very hard for somebody to start from scratch. But I would love to think it would start from scratch though and reinvent Alnwick Fair, because I just don't think the day and age of people doing that sort of thing, it seems to me, and I hope I'm wrong, it seems that people are less community spirited now than what they used to be. I think they've got so many distractions that they'd rather spend an hour in the bedroom for sake of argument with kids who've got their little machines to play on rather than go out and do something that would be, shall we say, community spirited. I'm not saying kids aren't community spirited, I just don't think they get the chance. I think nowadays that the world has changed dramatically since then. But I hope I'm wrong.
Okay, let's go back.
So, you know, I know Alwyn's on, I know the Glendale one was on, and it's nice to see those sort of shows on. It'd be great if Alnwick had some sort of show on. I mean, the music festival alone would be great.
That's gone as well now, isn't
It hasn't technically gone. I think they're finding it's a struggle. I think there's a lot of things happened. No, it wasn't on this year, but I think it was on last year, surprisingly. Or was it 2 years ago? It might be, time flies when you're having fun. But I mean, the music festival is the only one I can see that might come back. And the spring show.
I thought, why not put them together? Alnwick Fair and the Few Music Festival, and then you've got all this range of stuff happening all in 1 week, and it's all one big draw.
I think a week's too long. I think if you had two different ones over it like they did, another thing about Alnwick Fair used to always be raining. It was almost like...
Okay, come on. We start on again. Roll, please.
Well, another thing when I came to Alnwick, they always said, well, if March comes in like a lion, it goes like a lamb, and vice versa. And for years I was wanting to prove that wrong. It took so long to prove my wife, who said it to me, wrong on it. But it eventually happened. But they always said when Alnwick Fair was on, it was rain. And it always seemed to be. I don't know if that's just... I mean, they must have had some sunny ones, but it always seemed to rain during Alnwick Fair, and it always seemed to be nice during Alnwick Music Festival. And it's just whether... I don't know, maybe that was an attitude or was that was just something I imagined, but it always seemed to rain during Alnwick Fair.
What were the dates of the two different days?
I think one was the last week in, well, it would have been last week, would it have been, when it was on, it was been, I'm trying to think. One would be beginning, I think, August, and one was the end of July-ish sort of thing, if I'm correct.
It was the end of June, wasn't it?
Oh, the ended last week in June, you're right. Chris, you should have been there. The last week in June, and I think the first week in August or something like that.
Yeah.
So it was, I don't really think the weather played that major a part, but I think you can get it into your head that always seemed to rain when Alnwick Fair was on, and then it starts to rumour and it's like that, but it just coincidence. So, but yeah, it was nice to see the shows around the county coming back. Powburn, you know, Glanton, all these ones are having back on. Alwitton, like I said, in the big one at Glendale sort of thing. But I just don't know if the spirit's there. That's probably the word. And if the music festival gets going again, I think it'd be good. And if the spring show gets going again, great. But it's getting volunteers to do it. That's the thing. And are they there? Because it doesn't seem to be, to me, at this moment in time, that there's people willing to give up their time to do things for the town as much as they have in the past. But I'd love to be proved wrong.
You thought like social media being made to pull new people in?
You think so, but I don't see anybody rushing to start the music, to do the music festival. I don't see anybody rushing to do the fair again. And I think we should take the county show back. We should start a one that's, because I just think, what a cheek taking it off Alnwick, the county town.
Oh yeah, say like that.
Yeah, what? Sorry?
Just say what they changed it as from the county town, didn't
Well, they tried to change it, but funny enough, I think Adrian Irons, who's a local sort of historian, he checked it out and we've still got the charter. Alnwick is still the county town of Northumberland. And I guess technically will always be, while the Duke sits here, while he lives here, it'll always be the county town. It's not the administrative town, which Morpeth is, but it is definitely the county town, and it says so on the boards, not the boards, the signs when you come into Alnwick. And I remember being on the council when this was first mentioned, and I was delighted when we eventually won through and got it so that we had Alnwick, the county town.
So where's the county show at now? What?
No, I think it's Corbridge. I mean, there might be reasons for that, I don't know, but I just think the county town should have a county show.